Hello and happy Sunday afternoon. I finished editing this morning and Matt started organizing the barn a little bit. I also went outside to check on my sweet peas, and of course one of them had been dug up. I don't know if it was a critter or maybe Junie, although she hadn't spent much time out there between when I planted and this morning. So I divided one of the sweet peas I had that was a double, and I put it as a replacement in that spot, so hopefully it'll take. But either way, I'll have to keep an eye on those and make sure they don't get dug up before they have a chance to root and grow. I have warmed up some leftover chicken pot pie that Matt made last night. I'm gonna have that for lunch, and then Matt and I are gonna run a few errands. We hooked up the trailer because we are going to run to Tractor Supply and get a couple of 8-foot cattle panels. I'm going to use those for tomato trellis support this year instead of individual trellises, so I'm not sure if I'll get them in the ground today, but I'll show you kind of what I'm thinking. We have to get some fertilizer for the grass because it has seen better days, and the sooner we get it on, the better our chances of our grass looking somewhat green. And then I'm hoping to spend the afternoon making some macarons for Matt to bring to work. He recently started a new job, so I thought that would be a fun thing for him to bring in. And then we're gonna watch the Masters. So I hope everyone is having a good weekend, enjoying the weather. The sun is out for us, which I'm very happy to see. I'm a little bit sick of the rain, and I'm crossing my fingers that this summer is not as rainy as last, but I guess the rain wasn't a bad thing. The garden was very happy. So anyway. morning and happy Marathon Monday. I left you hanging again yesterday. It was a busy day. We went to Tractor Supply to get a cattle panel, which I'm going to be using for tomato support this year. I will show you a little bit of that later this week. So that was the first errand. Then we went to Home Depot to get fertilizer for the grass. Then we came home and I started making macarons, which always take a very long time, but I was kind of enjoying taking my time and watching the masters in the kitchen while I was baking. And then, before I knew it, it was dinner time. We made one of our favorites, smashed tacos, and then it was almost bedtime, so I went upstairs, I took a bath, I started Sex and the City over again, and I just relaxed before I went to bed. So it was kind of nice to have a somewhat productive but also chill day. So Matt and I just spent a little bit of time outside with the dogs, checking on all of our plants that are starting to pop up. Still no seeds popping up in the raised beds yet. We also cut the cattle panel that we bought into 2 pieces, so we can now take those 8-foot panels and we can support them vertically in the center of my 2 8-foot beds. So we'll have to come up with some kind of post structure. I have to see what wood we have in the barn. But now we'll have a nice long support through the whole center of the bed that's a little over 4 feet tall, and as the tomatoes grow on either side, I can take little strips of Velcro and sort of attach it to that trellis instead of having individual trellises for each tomato. I'm thinking this will be more supportive. It will have more places for the tomatoes to kind of like intertwine, and will also allow us to have a full bed of tomatoes instead of miscellaneous tomato plants here and there, which is what I did last year, and they did okay, but the tomato trellises just didn't support them well enough, so I figured we'd give this a go this year. Now that I'm caffeinated, I'm going to get some work done, and then later this afternoon I'm going to bring up some of the seedlings that need to be transplanted, and I'm just going to do some work outside. It's supposed to be a beautiful day, and the basement space is nice, but any day it's sunny, I want to take advantage of it. So I figured it'd be a perfect day to do that kind of work outside. Alright, I'm heading outside to do some transplanting. I'm in the porch because it's very windy outside, so the audio will be super loud if I don't film here first. I'm bringing out 1 tray at a time. I've got some planting supplies out there, larger pots, soil, water, etc., so that I can put some of the bigger seedlings into larger pots and give them a little more space to grow inside before we actually harden them off and plant them outside. I'm not going to do this for everything, but anything that's getting a little bit large or just has kind of seemed to slow down or stop growing, I'm going to transplant those and see how they do. We had relocated. It was getting a little windy outside and my pots were flying away, and then Junie thought it was a free-for-all, so she was destroying them. I was also very toasty because I was wearing a sweater, a jacket, and a hat. I've forgotten what it's like to be out in the sunshine, so I need to remember how to dress. But anyway, I brought everything back inside, back to our station. I did get a few things transplanted out there. Tomatoes, rosemary, wild bergamot, Greek oregano, I thinned the snapdragons. I wasn't sure that transplanting them was really going to make a difference, so I just kind of plucked out any of the tiny ones that didn't look like they were doing so hot to hopefully give the larger, healthier ones a chance. So we'll see if that works. I actually don't really know if you do need to transplant them. Again, as I've mentioned before, this is totally a learning year, so I'm kind of figuring it out as I go, and a lot of times I'm just going with my gut. To a degree. Obviously a lot of this is research, but sometimes I'm just like, meh, we'll see how it does. So now that we're back inside, I'm going to transplant the false indigo and lavender. I have a lot of those, so we're going to see how long that takes, and then I might take a break. And then if I have time or I'm feeling up to it, I will come back down and plant some more seeds. I have a little bit of shuffling I need to do on the shelves to make room, because now we're introducing larger containers, so we need to make sure everything fits. But yeah, that's the plan. We'll see how far I get. Oh, thank you. Yucky. Sorry I left you hanging there again. My battery died, so I decided it was a good place to stop and call it for the day. My back was starting to feel it after bending over the tables for a while, so we will plant the cucumbers, pumpkins, squash, and dahlia seeds tomorrow. I got everything transplanted that I need to, I think. I'll keep an eye on things to see how they grow over the next few weeks, but hopefully I won't have to split anything else. I mostly wanted to move the larger plants up, like tomatoes, because I didn't want to stunt their growth. But it's a year of learning, so who knows if I did the right thing or not. We'll see. Crossing my fingers that everything continues to grow nice strong roots. But anyway, I'm outside with the dogs. We are just hanging out waiting for Matt to get home, and then we're gonna make leftover smash tacos, and then I'm gonna try and relax. Not something I'm good at, but my body is tired today, so I'm gonna try to get to bed early and wake up and do it all over tomorrow. Again, Tuesday evening, and I am just about to head down to the basement to plant up some seeds, but I wanted to show you what I brought upstairs today because I'm hoping this will help make a difference in their growth. I was talking to my sister about some of the seedlings or seeds that either haven't germinated or just aren't getting much bigger, and she said that perhaps it's a little bit cold in the basement. So I ended up bringing up 3 trays of flowers, and I also spritzed them with a little bit of fertilizer to see if I can give them a boost. Some things like the columbine are sprouting. They're just really small. The yarrow and what did I plant? The viola over here, all sprouted and don't seem to be dead or anything, but just aren't getting much bigger. Those could be slow growers. The ones that I'm struggling the most with are the lisianthus and the snapdragons. Almost all of my lisianthus have germinated, but they're tiny and they just haven't gotten much bigger. And same with the snapdragons. Like everything's kind of popped up, but once they got to that height, they kind of just stopped growing. So Meg suggested maybe the fertilizer would help, but also getting them into a slightly warmer space. So hopefully being in front of these windows will give them a little better warmth. We'll see if we can get some better germination or just get these things growing a little bit more. I did thin them out yesterday when I was doing all the transplanting, so now there's like really only 1 or maybe 2 in some cases in each cell. So hopefully that gives them the space they need to grow, but just trying different things to see what we can get to work, and if this doesn't work, then we'll pivot again, or maybe we won't plant some of these flowers this year, but hopefully this will give them the little boost they need. It's about 8 p.m. I'm gonna head down to the basement and multitask a little bit. We have our regular family call, so I'm gonna pop that on my laptop while I work on planting some seeds. And my goal is to get the rest of the seeds we need to start inside done tonight so that I can check those off my list and hopefully just like monitor things for the next few weeks. We'll see. I know it's not that easy, but yeah, that's the plan. So let's go downstairs. Spreadsheet, we have started everything that needs to be started inside, and we've already direct seeded some of the things that needed to be started in April. So we're all caught up until late April, early May, where we'll start some additional things outside, and then mid-May start planting outside. in the garden. I just cut down some stakes from some miscellaneous wood we had in the barn to support these kettle panel trellises I'm going to install in the 2 center beds. I basically just cut wood to length and then I cut a point at the end so I could easily pound it into the dirt. I'm going to take 2 of those stakes I just cut and use them to pinch the kettle panel between. So I'll put 2 on the left side, 2 on the right side. I'll slide the kettle panel in between and then I'll screw the 2 stakes together and that will just hold the kettle panel in place. I need to make sure I pound the stakes in deep enough so that it's not too wobbly, so I'm hoping this will work. I just used the wood we had. They're pine, they're not hardwood, they're not pressure treated, so they will rot in a few years, but for the sake of seeing if this is going to work, I didn't want to invest too much more into the project. So I'm going to attempt to pound these in and get the first one installed, and then I'll kind of show you how things are going. So this is the general idea, but I want to suspend the panel a little bit above the dirt, and I think in order to do that I need to screw a block in here so I can rest the panel on top of it. So I think what I'm going to do is go cut down like little scrap pieces and then I'll screw that all together here at the bottom, and that way I can pound the whole post in, like both sides together as one unit, and then I think it'll be a little bit easier because it's hard to pound these in and keep them even because they're so wobbly and the dirt's, you know, moving. So I think if I connect them so it's basically one big post, it will go in a little more smoothly. This is our updated post. So I've basically just screwed in spacers. This one is at the bottom of 52 inches. So from this line all the way up to the top is 52 inches. And then this is like 1 3/4 inches. So the gap from here to top of this block is just over 50 inches. And that is where the panel will slide between and sit in. This is a little wider than I was anticipating, so I'll have to figure out a way to kind of like keep the kettle panel in place, but I think this will at least be a little more stable. So the trick to getting these to be stable is really packing the dirt in around the base here. So I'm gonna have to do that a little more, but I'm hoping once things start growing and we start attaching it from both sides, it will kind of like all work together to balance this out. And it's really just an experiment this year, so if it works well and we like it, then we can improve upon it next year or put in stronger posts, but I think this will do for this season. You can see how it's hovering a little bit, and that's where those blocks I added at the bottom are coming in handy because the panel can rest on top of that and then it's not sitting in the dirt. Now that we have a better system, I have to take these 2 sets out. I'll screw the blocks in and then I'll re-pound them in and slide the panel in between them. that that is done, I'm going to show you where we kind of like created a temporary pumpkin patch space for this year. I was hoping I would have time to add some soil to it this week, but I don't think I'm going to because I need to pack for a trip I am leaving for on Friday. So if you missed it, a few weeks back we cleared this whole space. It used to be filled with brush and vines and dead trees and logs and all kinds of stuff, and we decided we wanted to reclaim it as usable space. So that is why it looks like this. We still have a lot of work to do to kind of tidy it up, but because I have run out of space in the other garden beds over there, we decided to build a little temporary pumpkin patch in this space while we're figuring out what to do with it. When we cleared this whole area, I saved all these stones. I figured there was something we could do with them, and I had created a big pile. And while we were doing the burn pile the other day, I was like, I'll just start framing out a pumpkin patch. So we just made this big rectangle. I am going to fill it with some more soil. We have some pretty rich, like, composty type soil in the back, so I'll probably fill some wheelbarrows and just dump it in here, spread it around, and try to till it up a little bit so it's a little more loose. This is pretty packed down from driving over it over and over again with the tractor, so I just want to like fluff it up a bit so it's ready for planting. So I was hoping to get to that this week, but I'm a little spent for tonight. I have dinner plans tomorrow, and then I hop on a flight Friday for a very fun and exciting trip, which I will absolutely be bringing you on. So that's just not gonna happen, but hopefully next week we'll be able to add some soil and prep that bed. We still have a few weeks before we actually start putting pumpkins and things in the ground. I just started them the other day, so maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I'm just thinking out loud here. Yeah, probably 3 or 4 weeks before we actually put those in the ground. So we have time, but I'm just trying to get a little bit ahead because I want to enjoy the planting part of this all, and there's just so much prep work, so I don't want to be rushing to do the prep and then just like throwing plants in the ground because I'm tired and over it. So anyway, that is where we are at. I think we're pretty close to having all the beds prepped. Now we're kind of just waiting on the seedlings and crossing our fingers that they thrive and they're nice and big and healthy and hardened off and ready to live outside when the time comes. So I think I'm gonna head inside and start making some dinner, feed the dogs, and catch up with Matt when he gets home from work. Good morning and happy Friday. I just finished packing up for my trip. I'm headed off to Washington State to go to the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival with one of my childhood friends, which I'm very excited about. We haven't seen each other in a while, but we also have a love of flowers that we share, so it will be a fun little adventure, and I will be bringing you along with us. But before I head off, I wanted to give you a garden bed update because we have some things that have started to pop up, and I will also give you a seedling update and show you how things are looking. Let's see, so our sweet peas, well, they're not dead. They're slowly growing. They are getting a bit bigger. These ones, I think I planted a bit smaller. This one in the back here is looking great. There's actually 2 in there. And this one over here, he's gotten a lot taller. So I'm excited to see what these all look like when I get back from my trip. And then in the beds where we planted some of our greens, we've got a few little things popping up. These are the collards. Let's see. We've got a bunch of French breakfast radishes coming up all over here. We've got some spinach starting to pop up. And lots of arugula. These were the turnips, so we've got a few of those popping up. And lastly, the bok choy. So by the time I get home, these seedlings should all be much more visible. It'll be several weeks before we can actually harvest anything, obviously, but I'm kind of excited to be away for a few days because I check on things every day because I'm just like obsessed. So obviously not a lot happens over 24 hours, but when you're gone for a few days and then you come back, everything is drastically different. So that will be fun to come back to. The hydrangeas I planted are also starting to pop out some leaves, so that's exciting. So I wasn't sure how happy these would be after just planting them, but almost every single one has a few buds or just a few leaves popping. These guys. So that's really exciting. We also have some lilacs along our front rock wall over by the chicken coop, and a lot of these are budding, so we're on the verge of lilac season, and it's one of my favorites because all of our neighbors all around our town have tons of lilacs and they're just so beautiful to drive by. Before I head down to the basement, I had brought some things upstairs and I think they're doing all right. I just put them in front of the window. These were some extras that I'm actually going to be donating to our plant sale, and I wanted to see if they would just boost up a little bit up here in a sunny window. And I also sprayed some organic fertilizer on those yesterday. And then over here are the 3 flower trays I originally brought up, and not like major changes, but the columbine are definitely getting bigger. Some of the snapdragons are looking a little bit happier. And we do have some more penstemon germinating. I don't know that we'll get any more in here, but that's okay. Even if we have a few, that will be nice. Really no changes on the lisianthus. I mean, look how teeny weeny these things are. I'm just crossing my fingers that they'll jump up a little bit, but I don't know. It's been quite some time and they haven't really changed, so they might not come through this year. And then our asters are looking bigger over here. Marigolds are very happy. Celosia, I think this one here might not have made it, but these 3 seem to be generating new leaves. So overall, I think bringing them upstairs might have helped a bit. So we'll just keep an eye on them. Down in the basement, our shelves are looking much more open because I brought some trays upstairs. Pumpkins have not germinated yet. We just planted those, so those will take some time. Same with the dahlia seeds and a couple of miscellaneous seeds I had, so I'm just going to keep the domes on those and keep the trays on the heat mats. Down here, these were all transplanted except for the celery, so we've got columbine, a bunch of false indigo, and lavender. So hopefully now that they have a little more space, those will keep shooting up, and I may move these upstairs if they kind of seem stalled. Basil's looking really happy. The green basil is just thriving. Alyssum back there is getting really big. And the hibiscus here are looking very happy. They just popped out a 3rd leaf, almost a 4th, so hopefully those keep growing. Tomatoes, these were all transplanted and those are popping back up. They were looking a little floppy once I brought them back inside, but now that they're kind of getting established in these new pots, I think they'll be happier. Cosmos are huge. Very happy about that because that's one of my favorite flowers. Zinnias right behind them in the 3rd row are looking awesome. And then our viola and hyssop are slow and steady back there. All the soil in here has also got this weird green stuff on it, so I don't know what's going on, but the plants don't seem bothered, so I'm gonna let it go. All of our eggplants and peppers, slow and steady. We've got lemon balm here. I think that's a slow grower, but they are germinating, so that's awesome. Parsley's also a little bit slower, but we've got a whole bunch of those. Our little thyme here in the back. Oh, it's so exciting to see everything pop up. We've got fennel. This is also getting very large. It kind of looks like the cosmos, and same with the dill. That's all popping up in the back. Tomatillos are very happy. This was some transplanted cilantro. More cosmos I transplanted. And then last but not least, these were all transplanted. Rosemary, Greek oregano, bergamot, and the onions are as is. Those haven't changed except for this one that Junie dug up, so I tried to rescue them and stick some back in. So we'll see if those make it, but aside from that, everything seems to be doing wonderful. This was the fertilizer concentrate I used, if anyone is wondering. It doesn't specify flowers, but I'm sure it's not harmful to them. So this is a concentrate. You mix it with water. I think it was 2 ounces in 1 gallon of like clean water. You shake it up, and then I put it in a little spray bottle and sprayed that on the flowers upstairs. So before I leave tonight, I'm going to make sure to give everything a good water, and that will be the only thing that Matt needs to keep an eye on. I think the ones up here in the sunny window will dry out a little bit faster just because it's much warmer upstairs. But hopefully when I get back, things will be looking much bigger and starting to get closer to that transplant state. Because when I get back, we'll be 1 week out from our frost date, our last frost date. I won't be planting anything that early, but just a few weeks after that we'll be hardening off and getting things outside. So very, very close, which is super exciting. While I'm standing here, I'm looking at the monstera plant that I cut to pieces to propagate several weeks ago, and I want to show you because it's got a whole bunch of new leaves. So if you watched some of the early videos, in one of them I cut this plant to pieces so that I could take some cuttings and propagate them, and there are tons of new leaves showing up on this plant, which is so exciting. So I kept like the mother plant intact because I wanted to see if it would kind of produce some more leaves, and sure enough, it took some time, but they are coming, so that's exciting. It's desperate for water, but aside from that, it seems fairly happy in the corner here. And while we're on the topic, I haven't repotted the pothos yet, but as you can see, we've got tons of nice long roots in there. So in a few weeks, I will pot these up, and I'll be donating some of these to the plant sale as well. You can see we've even got some new growth on the ends of these cuttings, so that's exciting. Nothing, absolutely nothing on my snake plant. I do not know. I don't know what I did wrong. There's no roots, so I think those are a loss, but I mean the plant itself is still very happy, so who knows, maybe I just need to stick it in the ground. And on the monstera, you can see there are tons of new roots here, so these are due for potting up, and I'll be donating some of these as well to the plant sale. So sadly I will have to change up my centerpiece, but it's been nice through the winter to have a little bit of green here. So that is it for plant updates this week. I'm going to go pour myself a cup of coffee and sit down to get a little bit of work wrapped up before I hit the road for the airport later today. Thank you so much for watching this week. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future updates. We will catch up again in next week's vlog with updates from my trip to Seattle and of course more garden updates.